All right, here we go. So, um, hello, welcome to SlugSec meeting. Today we're going to be covering a topic called steganography. Now, yeah, we're just going to get right into it. Before we begin, though, we want to talk about some club news and announcements, right? Currently, we have OSU Gaming CTF happening right now, and I believe that's going till what, the end of like tomorrow, I think. So I'm not sure if participation is like still allowed, but I think you could talk to an officer, and you can talk to an officer, and you can hopefully join OSU Gaming and on the side of Slug Security, of course. So yeah, we're currently doing that. It's going well. There's also a Pico CTF tournament happening on Tuesday, like around finals week. So it's up to you guys if you all want to join, but that's an option as well. And correct me if I'm wrong, is there RF social after this? Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, maybe people may or may not be there in the RF social, but if you want to just hang around, I mean, that's an option. Yeah, and anything else? I mean, in terms of outreach, you can just talk to any of the officer team. Hopefully that'll work out. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about what is steganography. Um, oh, and also I just want to make sure, is the recording looking all right? Like you can see like the entire slideshow and things like that. That's okay, just making sure. All right. Yeah, let's talk about steganography. So I guess in rudish terms, steganography is just obfuscating information that is hidden from the naked eye. Now, I guess the source of the words, I mean, there's two root words there, so steganos and graphia. So they're both Greek, and they stand for covered or concealed and writing. So you can imagine steganography just means covered writing or concealed writing. Okay. So what's our goal with steganography? Well, steganography is we're trying to make sure that the data is invisible or obfuscated to anyone we don't want handling our information. So it's not really feasible, right? I mean, we talk about like steganography being a tactic for hiding and kind of like, going under the radar for a lot of people. It's not necessarily the best method out there, right? So it's not, if someone is experienced enough to understand steganographic techniques, they'd be able to see through it. So if you're sending a message and you want to, hide that message, perhaps someone who knows the idea of your algorithm, they might be able to detect what you're exactly doing. So, steganography is not really foolproof, right? So that's why it's more on the side of obfuscation. And we talk about the data itself, that is not really being changed. So what's actually being changed is how you express that data, what you're doing with the data you're passing in, right? So I guess we can ask the question now, why do we do steganography if it's such a less foolproof option compared to other things, right? I mean, when you look at the analysis of how threat actors partake in their activities, right? A lot of times threat actors may not use very secure methods, and a lot of times you might find that they might use steganographic techniques. So people that are trying to fight against these sorts of threat actors, they would look for clues. They would look for steganographic sort of systems, and they'd find a way to kind of find the files, find the information they want out of these threat actors. And a lot of times these threat actors might screw up. They might not be really good at what they do. So they might do something that will probably prevent reasonable suspicion. Maybe not all the suspicion. I mean, if maybe a federal agent is snooping through your your activity, they might be able to tell what's going on, right? So that's the key thing. It's something. It's just a technique that people on the defensive side may be able to tell for in order to fight against offensive security personnel, right? So yeah. So I guess I gave an example right there where I mentioned, malware developers maybe want to talk to each other somehow, or they want to share information with each other. Now, they don't have to, send the actual files because that could just, trigger an alarm for maybe their ISP or something. So they might just I can't even English this, like steganographically send their images, or not images, but program files and things like that. That's a possibility. People tend to obfuscate virus files or malware bits, and they do send that to each other. All right, so yeah. And I guess the question to ask now is, will this really work, right? We talk about, will this be a good idea? And I mean, I already kind of touched upon this, but the answer is no, because there's so many better alternatives, and steganography is just one of those things that you're probably better off not doing, right? So let me just quickly open up the chat. There's no one, okay, no one's typing in chat, good, just making sure. All right, so we can talk about what is not steganography, right? So, I mean, is it steganography? I mean, you can look at it for yourself, but it looks like that's on the left side, that looks like just a base encoding algorithm, right? And it's just a very dumbed down version of it. And the right side is just, another base 64 decoding, thanks to CyberChef. So is that steganography? And I guess it won't be, right? So this is just encoding and decoding, right? So it's not necessarily steganography, but they do have this sort of similar idea where you can kind of reverse encoded data back to like original data. So if you're trying to encode something, right, and you pass it on, someone else can decode that data. It doesn't matter if it's someone that you want to see the that you care about seeing the information. Anybody who has the data can completely decode it, right? So that would not count as steganography. How about this one? This is a public-private key encryption system. So it looks like there's two different kinds of encryption methods here. I just separate them, just put it into a nice little box there. But yeah, that would also not count because cryptography, right? This is cryptography, and it would be better to have cryptography than steganography when it comes to securing files or data you want to secure, right? So in this case, I mean, cryptography is not steganography, but when you're trying to hide or like not hide, but rather secure information, right? If you want to secure information from unauthorized individuals, this would be the right thing to do. And if you employ cryptography in the right way, you pretty much have a foolproof way of kind of hiding or not hiding. Again, it's just preventing information being handed to the wrong people, right? You can talk about like encrypted hard drives, right? So that sort of thing. That's all cryptography, just making sure that the data systems are just all secure and no one else can use some sneaky technique to get through your data, right? So I guess we could talk about steganography categories. Did I say that right? Steganography categories. Yeah, so there's different categories for steganography. And yeah, I mean, we're not going to cover video ones, but just know that that exists. There are text steganography, image steganography techniques, and audio steganography techniques. I would especially focus more on the image and audio ones, mostly because you would see a lot of those in things like CTFs. You might also see that when it comes to, you probably might not see audio so much, but you might see image being used. I can't really say how much is used, how much in the real world is used, but I definitely would imagine that it's probably it's a possibility, right? So, and of course, there's also a lot more categories, right? So it's not just these 4 exhaustive categories. There's a lot more. Yeah. So I guess in transition to this next topic. So I guess we're going to be talking about the different Kali Linux tools, right? So I mean, these are just some of the, and it's not just like Kali Linux tools. There's some like Linux tools itself, right? So we'll talk about that. Let's go straight into it. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's start with Binwalk. Binwalk is not a Linux tool itself. It's actually a Kali Linux thing that you might just have out of the box, but it is something that you can get from GitHub, right? So what it effectively does is you pretty much kind of get a description of what you're looking at in terms of files. So you can find maybe encrypted data within a file. So like, for example, a file within a file, right? You could see that with the Binwalk. So it's really good for file forensics, and it is probably like a go-to tool when you're starting off. And yeah, it can reveal more info that the file command may not. And the file command is a Linux command in itself, so you could use that. But Binwalk is probably better in that case, right? So that would be Binwalk, all right? And we could talk about grep now. Now, grep is just finding information or finding specifically patterns within a file. This is a Linux tool. And yeah, you could search for directories within a file, or you could search for patterns within directories recursively. So if you're in a file directory, you don't know which directory to look in, you could search for all of them and look for a pattern, although it might take a little longer. So yeah, you could use man pages. So that's why I included the little man grep there. You could just go on the Linux terminal, type man grep, and there you go. You can find more information on grep. I have an example on the left, and it's just a very simple example. I think Kali just highlights this. You might not find this in, say, like WSL, for example, because it doesn't like, I don't know, it just doesn't like to highlight things for you, make your life a lot easier. So, but yeah, you can do this in Kali pretty easily and just get a little highlight going on. All right, let's talk about hexdump. Now, hexdump, it's probably like, I guess, a dumbed down version of just hex editor, which I'll talk about in a bit, but hexdump is just dumps all the hex data into your terminal, and it's nice. I mean, I just put like an image, for example, and then you just take like the first portion of that. So that's what that head command is doing right there. I can just move my mouse around that. There you go. You can read more about that. That's a Linux command again. So you can do man hex dump, right? All right, now hex editor. This is a fun tool. I want to talk about this more when we actually try some CTF practice challenges. But yeah, I mean, here's a little help. I guess you can type this in a terminal and just figure it out. This is also, I think, a Kali Linux tool straight up. So yeah, you could just look into that and read more on the options you have available to you. So now we talk about strings. So strings is, Linux tool, and you can look for printable characters within a certain file you want to look into. So for example, an executable, you don't know, what sort of, I guess, file strings you're looking for. So maybe there's a flag in there or something. You could type in, I don't know, like Pico or something, strings Pico, or sorry, strings whatever, and then it will list everything, and then you'd probably have to like do a grep statement. So you could list out all the strings, right? And then you could probably just parse that out with using a grep statement. So that's why I included the man strings there. You can just read about that yourself. The Linux tool again. So let's go from the tools. I know that's a little bit of an information dump, but let's talk about steganography. Let's go back to that. Whoops, I went too far. Okay. Yeah. So text steganography. So I guess yeah, for like lack of better words, it's just hiding text out of plain sight. If you're trying to send a message to someone, right, you'd probably you might as well just like hide an envelope or something. You're probably not gonna, keep that message out in the open, especially if it's, I don't know, your tax returns or something. You're probably not gonna get that mailed to you out of an envelope. But that would be an example maybe of text steganography. It might be a little stretched there, but yeah, just hiding text from anyone else that you don't want seeing your text, right? So we have an example of there's two different kinds of text steganography. You have physical methods, right, and then you have non-physical methods. So physical methods, I mean, we talk about right here, all these, I guess, back historically, right? I mean, World War II, I'm sure they've definitely used this some way, somehow. They just use a certain chemical to kind of write on a piece of paper. And, if you put it under a certain, I guess, another chemical, so I don't know, fire, for example. Fire's not a chemical, but whatever. It's, never mind. So you can put it under fire, right? This is lemon juice, I think, and then you can just like put it under fire and it would reveal the letterings there. So that's pretty cool. I think this is a different chemical solution, but it's an example. Believe, yeah, there's also like physical methods where you could type, you could write text in a certain way, and then you'd have to put it under a certain color of light. I think there's like a black light sort of thing. So you could write text, and then it'd show up under a certain color of light, right? So that'd be the case. Um, let's see. Anything else? I think, yeah, okay. We can go straight to digital methods then. Yeah, so I guess digital methods, I'm just gonna leave this here. Oh, you know what? I probably should have put the CTF link. That would have been smart. Here, let me do that real quick. I'll put that in the chat actually, and I'll probably link this in the slideshow when we're going back to it. But you can go on Pico CTF, and you can probably find this if you just do a quick search on that. So let me provide the link actually. And you know what? I'll leave y'all to it. Once I send the link, I'll give a few minutes. Maybe we can cover this if technology is willing to comply. Let me find it first though. What? Let me go on this side. Let's see, it's the right one. It's frustrating. Okay, just make sure you're logged into Pico CTF if you want to try this challenge out. So I'm just gonna put that in chat. Yeah, we'll make sure these are linked in the slideshows as well. So for those of you following along, you could also take a look into this. All right. Cool. I'll come back at 3:50 maybe. So in 2 minutes maybe. Down 350. I'm gonna try to stop sharing here, and then I'm gonna see if I can do it on my computer. Let's see here. So this should be recording, I'd hope. Is it? Hang on. Verify that. Yeah, it's recording. Okay, lovely. Let's go back to this. And then, oh, how odd. Okay. Okay, and I would imagine you could see that. Yeah, cool. I think you could see that. Yes. Okay. Looks good. All right, so we have this flag. It looks like, I mean, on the physical version. Okay. Do you want me to, do I just, okay. Desktop to middle projector. Okay. Right. Got it. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, not that. Yeah, a lot bigger. Okay. Even bigger. Okay. Yeah, so we have a flag, right? We have anthem flag.txt. Let's see what that prints out. Kind of gave the answer there, so, but you kind of have an idea. It's a really long piece of text. You have no idea what's going on, right? You don't know where to find this. So, I mean, you can consider this as a form of text steganography. I mean, you're trying to hide a message within a message. So, we could do a simple cat anthem, right? And then we can grep it, right? So we could grep for the actual flag. You could just do pico, right? And then there you go. You could find the answer right there. So there's your flag. Very simple, straightforward. I like this one. Just real laid back, right? So that should cover that. Okay, then let's go back. Position back over to screen 1. Yeah. Okay, and then desktop 1. There we go. Okay, I'm getting the hang of it. What matters. All right, cool. And then let's go back to my slideshow set. Wait, where is that? Okay, there we go. Okay, so yeah, that was the, I guess, a digital version of that. So let's talk about image steganography. I think that's a very juicy topic. There's a lot of things you can do with an image file. You can obfuscate text messages or any sort of other files. You can even embed an image within an image, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so for a surface level analysis, you could definitely use the tools we've talked about for text steganography, right? You can use binwalk strings. You could use all those tools. But you have to understand that these are also very like surface level things that you'd probably do. If the CTF was maybe on the basic side, right, you might find that these kinds of tools would be like good enough, but you might have to go even deeper. So that's why we included these other tools, and there's a lot more tools. We'll talk about them. Yeah. So just to talk about some quick terminologies. Yeah. So the message, I want to start in the middle here because I think I kind of ordered this wrong, but whatever. The message of a file, right? It's the intended information you want to send. So I guess going back to that example of the two adversaries wanting to kind of communicate with each other, the message would be maybe like the program files or the actual, I don't know, the source data they're trying to send to each other. And the cover image, we can go back up here. So the cover image would be the file that can conceal that data. So in the context of image steganography, right, we talked about how things can be embedded within images. So that cover image or a cover file could be that sort of way of doing that. And the actual stego key / secret, that can just be the methodology for just, I guess, encrypting that message even further. So it's an option. Some people might, I would probably, if I was doing steganography, I'm trying to communicate, I'd probably do that just to, give myself some semblance of hope that my message is not given to some random adversary, someone I don't want to see, right? So let's talk about the techniques. Okay, so general techniques, right? I mean, these aren't really like, this isn't everything, right? I'm sure there's more quirky, unique ways that other people just store things within images. But yeah, I guess we could talk about metadata, right? So a lot of images, not all, but a lot of images might have the geolocation or camera data that they use to take an actual image in. Or otherwise, I mean, it doesn't have to be geolocation data, right? I mean, if you have like a Photoshop file, I believe in the EXIF data, they include that. So the EXIF data is stuff you'd find in like the metadata of a file. You can think about this as like, I guess, storing more information than what the eye sees for an image, for I guess an image file, right? So that would be the metadata side. There are tools to parse that, so we'll talk about that in a bit. I guess this next technique, right, would be least significant bit or LSB, and that is just pretty much storing information within the last bits in a color, I guess, a pixel, right? So we talk about this diagram on the right side, and think about this left side as maybe like part of an image, right? You would imagine that every single pixel is split up as RGBs, right? So every single pixel just has an RGB color data, and that ranges from what, like 0 to 255, right? So that would be the case. And maybe the data itself, right? The byte data for an R value or a red value, that would be expressed in some weird way. And well, it's just a byte value, right? But then you want to take the last value of that, and then you want to modify that. So you might make that like a 1 maybe or a 0. It doesn't really matter. What matters is you can get like a message out of just reading these least significant bytes. So that's another technique. I mean, it's a very sneaky technique. You might not be able to notice it, and you might wonder, will this actually affect the pixel colors? And no, because I mean, you're looking at the least significant bits. It would be very unnoticeable, right? You wouldn't be able to tell. It's like a 1 pixel or a one. What do I say? It's a 1 bit difference, literally in colors. So, yeah, that's LSB. It's a very cool technique. And then you also might have zipping and compression. I don't know. I guess I put them two like hand in hand, but you probably see more of compression. Just kind of making the data a little bit more, I guess, lower quality, if you will. I mean, that's effectively what compression does, but you're just, I guess, obfuscating a lot more information, right? And maybe to an unsuspecting eye, you're just passing this very compressed or zipped up image, and maybe they might not see it unless they do some significant analysis on the file itself. So that would be the case. Yeah, we can do another example. Is this relevant right now? Yeah, I think it would be fair to do this. Okay, let me go get that sent into Doom. Hopefully this is the right link. I would hope it is because I'm on it. Okay, that should be a second challenge. And we'll probably come back at like 4 o'clock for that. Oh yeah, and the hint they also provide. Yeah, what is a hex editor? So we talked about hex editors or hex edit. You might look into that. Oh, no, that's probably me. Okay. Yeah, it's my own message. Sorry about that. All right. Let's see if I can share my screen. Okay, stop sharing here. It's a little process. Okay, let's go back. Screen here. Okay, I think that should be. Oh yeah, I have to change this on the. There we go. How's that? Forgot to press middle. There we are. All right. So let's walk through this. We got Glory of the Garden, and we have a file. What do we have? It's what's called garden.jpg. Let's do a quick analysis on that. So yeah, it's a very simple JPEG image data file. I mean, what are we working with here? I mean, if we open the garden, what do we get? Do we get anything in the file? Well, we don't really have anything, right? So see what else we can do, given the information we have. Well, I guess given the tools we've used, right, we could do different things. We could maybe print out the strings of the image itself. Not that it would make much of a difference, but oh yeah, actually, JK, it did. This is actually one technique. Yes, so you can actually use strings, and sometimes, I mean, if the actual data is not obfuscated enough, you might be able to find the actual flag itself in there. So, you know, that's an option. The idea that the CTF itself was going for, where I mentioned what is a hex editor, you can hex dump this, or you could just use hex editor, right? So right here, what I have is hex editor, right? And if you just open this, it will ask what file you want to open. So you can do it that way, or you can just type in the literal file. I'm just going to do this way for now. And yeah, I mean, you can look and see, okay, this is a clear JPEG file. So you can search up the, what's it called? The actual file headers for this stuff. So if you find that, you know, you're looking at a file here, and a lot of this entire, there's a certain amount of chunks of data that would be considered as a file header, and that would encode that as the image file. So you can scroll down, you can look all day, and oh wait, but actually there's also a cool search tool called search for text string. So how I did that, let's go back actually. Can I go back? Thank you. You can go back, and on the bottom you see it says Control W, search, right? So you can just do that, and you can search for a particular text string. So let's do that. We want to search for Pico, and boom, there you go. You see the flag again appearing there. So that was the intention with using the hex editor there. So yeah, that was, I guess that's one way you can embed information within an image file, right? There's different ways, right? Well, that's hopefully one way. So let's leave that for now. Yeah, hopefully that helped. Stop sharing. So go back here. Screen. Cool. Okay. I think we're back. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about more in-depth steganography tools for image analysis, right? So yeah, there's just some very, I guess, blunt, more information dumps, right? We kind of talk about steghide. So steghide helps finds data within a file, right? And you can also compress data with it. So if you want to, I guess, hide information within a file yourself instead of just like unlocking that, you can use steghide for that. So that's an option. EXIF tool and EXIF2, very similar tools. They're very useful for finding metadata. So we talked about in the previous slide, right? You can use metadata, right, as a way to sort of parse through information, find information. So EXIF tool, EXIF2 allows for that. And these are Kali tools. You wouldn't find this in the typical Linux distribution out of the box. So yeah, EXIF tool, EXIF2, very great tools. Definitely read up on the documentation for that, I would suggest. And let's see, ZSteg. Now, I believe ZSteg is like kind of an encompassing sort of, how do I say this, program itself. It's just, you can use it for a lot of different steganography techniques. If there's a, you know, any of the top 3 tools I just mentioned here, that, you know, ZSteg might cover more than that, right? So ZSteg is pretty useful, very powerful tool. I think I see it being applied a lot in CTFs. So definitely a tool you might want to consider having in your toolkit, right? And the last one over here is called a PariSolve. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I like to call it a Swiss Army knife for all the tools. I mean, it does everything, including ZSteg, EXIF analysis. So these are the kind of things you might want to have kind of all in one page. So a PariSolve allows for that, a very useful tool. Yeah, almost at everything, right? So I'm not going to give another CTF example, but I do want to kind of talk about like a case study I kind of done. So not really a case study. It's more of like another CTF I've done. And I guess I kind of want to share that, right? I think this is a very fun, it was a very fun thing to try out because it was an interesting way of hiding stuff. So there's a file called Is It Paris? And this was given in one of the CTFs I've done previously. And the task at hand was figuring out what the plus code of this image was. Now, I don't know. I didn't know what a plus code is at that time. I didn't know what a plus code means. So we had a lot of options just like in our disposal, right? We could use the image to do some more steg analysis, meaning we could just try what we did in that what was it, the garden challenge, right? We could try looking at the hex data itself. We could run EXIF tools and things like that. Those answer the question, what is a plus code, right? So an open location code or a plus code is pretty much a generalized way of just showing where locations can be. So from the typical coordinate system you would have on a latitude and longitude plane, you might have an open location code, and that could be just think about the globe, right? Think about that globe we had over here. Split it into separate different grids. Probably would have been nice to have that diagram there, but anyways, you have different grids. You can kind of triangulate almost or square where you find the actual code itself. So maybe like, I don't know, somewhere in India, right? You might just put a square there or something. That could be a particular set of alphanumeric numbers. That would be an example of having an open location code, right? So you could use that. And let's see, anything else? Yeah, I mean, it's very ideal for general locations. You might not find this being used for any particular, someone's house address. Oh, I found your open location code. Now I know where you live. No, it's not like that. It's not like that at all. But yeah, that would be the case for open location codes, right? And the plus code is Google's system of a open location code. So it's just Google's way of a nice way of Google telling you that, hey, we have an open location code system too. We just called it plus code to make us sound a little cooler. Yeah, you can read more about it here. I'm not going to click that link right now, but you can definitely check it out on your own time. Okay, so what we did in that image is using EXIF tool, right? We want to look at the metadata of that file. So what I did, I mean, I kind of did this in a rudimentary manner, but I took the EXIF tool, right, and I just ran it with the image file, and I just took out the tail. So yeah, is there anything interesting that stands out? I mean, you have all these, pixels per unit, things like that, the image size itself, permissions, how big the file is, right? But I would like to direct your attention to this portion of the metadata, right? There's a literal latitude and longitude position given right there. So you can imagine, going back to that image we had, I don't want to scroll back, but you can imagine the image itself. It was like a picture, right? So you can imagine a picture having that sort of data in the first place. Think about a camera, right? Like a Nikon or something, or I don't know, a Canon. They might store that image data just so you can go back on it. So having that sort of thing is pretty cool, and it might be a vulnerability at the same time, right? If you're sending pictures like straight from your DSLR camera online, I mean, who knows if the place you're uploading it to might hide this sort of metadata. Otherwise, someone can figure out where your GPS locations are, or like where you're kind of geolocated generally. So this would be a dangerous vulnerability if you're not handling this correctly. Let's go into that more. Let's convert that, right? So what I did was just take the data, put it into, I don't know, there's like I think one of the government websites out there that lets you just you just convert it, right? It just converts it to an actual decimal point system, right? And I need to, beat around the bush. But yeah, and it would end up with a very cool open location code. And you can see what I was talking about with the alphanumeric codes. It kind of splits it into grids, right? So each of these grids would be considered one sort of open location code. And this small red triangle, or not triangle, why did I say triangle? It's a red square, right? This would be the location we were talking about, 22, 113, whatever, latitude, longitude. And the alphanumeric code is, I believe, I don't know, I think this is the part before the alphanumeric code. So there's a little tiny portion that comes before the OLC, and then this is the actual OLC, right? So 4H7, 4HV7 plus. I can totally read English. Oh my gosh. Anyways, yeah. So this is where the location was. It doesn't look like Paris, right? But you can kind of see there's a little Eiffel Tower here. But unfortunately, it wasn't Paris. It was not Paris at all. We've been completely duped. It is a city in China, in fact, which is pretty cool. This is actually the live image of it. So pretty cool stuff. You'd think it's Paris, but I'm gonna be honest, I didn't actually think it was Paris at first. I only saw this from some other like random, so it was like some music video. So I remembered, oh, there's another Eiffel Tower that's not in Paris. It must be that. Anyways, okay. So yeah, given that sort of information dump, I'm hoping maybe we could try another CTF. I don't know. Let's try this. Maybe I'll give like a lot more time, tunnel vision, right? Let's give it maybe like till 4:15. And actually, yeah, you know what? I should link that in chat before I forget. Let's go there. Tunnel vision, here we are. Okay, and I'm hoping that link works if it doesn't scream at me. I'll give it to like 4:15 or even longer. We'll see. it's 4:15. I just want to verify something real quick. Then we'll get back to this. Okay, let's try this. Stop sharing. And let's see here. Where's my Zoom? Oh no, did I? Oh, you know what? I know what I did. 1 second. Bring this over here. There we go. All right, sorry about that. Let's bring this back. Okay. Right. That works. Be able to see. Yep, there we go. Cool. All right, so let's talk about what we want to do with this file. So what were we given? We're given a Garden. Was it? It wasn't Garden, was it? It was tunnel vision, right? Yeah, tunnel vision. All right, I'm looking at the right file. So let's look at what we have for tunnel vision. So what kind of file is it? It's data. Very curious. All right, what else can we do with this? We can try binwalk maybe. So maybe we can extract it, see if there's anything useful in there. I don't know. Maybe we might get something. Okay. I believe this is not really anything significant. Oh, and my Kali is just being nice. Okay. Cool. So we could do maybe hex analysis. We could try that perhaps, see if that works out. So let's see here. That was a file. All right, tunnel vision. There we go. Okay, cool. So we're into a little hex editor. And I guess we could talk about what sort of things we're working with here. So it looks like we have a small header here. Now, we don't know if this header is correct. I think that's the biggest thing. We can look at this BM period. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily the BMP header file, but we can check, right? I mean, it looks like as you keep going, there's a lot of dummy data. Probably can't find the string itself, right? So if we try eco, right, we might not find that. Fair enough. So let's go verify that. Hopefully, if I could just make a new share screen, see if I could share my file signature side. Yeah, there you go. Cool. So you can see a little set of file types, right? And all these are just file signatures. So every single, I guess, image data file has its way of encoding a header, right? So you can go down, you can see, probably you can search a PNG in here, right? Where is it? Well, you can have PCAP right here. There's a Wireshark little file there. Need a PNGs right here. There's this unique way that PNGs are put in the header, right? You can do JPEG. JPEG, there you go. All right, there's JPEG. Yeah, there's different ways you can do it, right? But the one we're looking for is BMP, I think, because when you look at BM, right, you can search BM, and then you just straight up find BMP. So if you look at this header, the first, what is it, 8 bytes, is that? Am I counting this correctly? Whatever, 42 4D. Is that 8 bytes? 2 bytes, thank you so much. I cannot count. Yeah, there's a BM. Oh, I'm not showing my entire screen, huh? That's fine, I don't need to do that. I'll switch. Yeah, there you go. You go back and you see there's a BM, right? So that looks like it's fine. But what about this other data, right? I mean, we haven't really verified the rest of these sorts of, bytes, right? So we want to go back and let's see if we can find any more information, right? So let's go back. And let's actually click into the BMP file information, right? And you might find that, okay, there's a lot of things and, oh, looks like there's a whole set of structures that BMP files tend to follow, right? So there's a BMP file header, which we've established that is 424D, right? And then there's also a DIB header. Now, it's not optional, right? It's a fixed size, so it looks like there's different versions of it. And it must follow right after the header, right? So we could do a little more searching on this, right? We could look for sorts of ways that we can identify what a good DIB header would be. So I've done a little quick search here and probably might find like some websites, right? And there's some structures here. I think I found, I guess, another Stack Overflow link sort of thing. But what I found more helpful was finding sample BMP files, right? You can use a sample BMP file. I just took this out of a random Google search. And I was like, oh, search for a sample BMP file. So this one called LAN BMP, right? So we can go back to our Kali and compare them, right? We can compare the files. So let's open actually a new terminal here. Hopefully all goes well. Ooh, I gotta zoom that in. Heavy. How's that? Yeah, looks good. Okay. Let's go slugsec. And I've actually downloaded the file right here, so land BMP. So let's actually open up the hex editor for that and see how that changes. So land BMP, there we go. So how's this? I mean, it looks like we have the BMP header, right? So we have a little set of bytes that go past here. And then let's see, can I alt tab? Thank you. So we go all the way, and I would imagine, was it, how many bytes is it? 4, 8. How many bytes did we establish that header was? Let's go back to that, shall we? Oh yeah, okay, so I skimmed past it, but I'm going back to that Wikipedia. It says 14 bytes. Very interesting. I think, does that encompass everything? 4, 8, 12. Yeah, okay, so 14 bytes. So this is where we'd end off, right? That would be where we'd start our, what's it called? The DIB header, right? So let's go back. And it looks like the DIB header, I mean, it's very different, right? I mean, it looks like we have a 2800 here. This one has a BA and D0. This is the the 2800 is something we'd probably want, right? This is like a properly rendering BMP file. We probably want that for this one. So let's change that. Let's make this a 28. So we can actually edit this, right? That's the beauty of hex editor. And let's see how we get. So we want to save it, sorry. Let's call this T2. I want to just call this T2, for example. Okay, and this might not work. Let's see how this works though. Open T2. Oh, I didn't even call it. Okay, well, let's just open T2, see how that works. Okay. Oh, and it looks like we found a kind of like a lead at least. I mean, we found like a not a flag sorry sort of thing, but we're getting somewhere, right? So let's go back and open that hex editor for tunnel vision. Okay, and I mean, if we go back to that Wikipedia, and I'm probably just going to skim through things here just to kind of get to our other topic, but the idea is you want to, there's a point where, you know, your height and width are identified. And over here in tunnel vision, this isn't really well identified. So around here, around these bits, if you do enough careful research, you might find that these, what's it called? These bytes are things you probably have to modify. So I believe something we could try is like, I don't know, 40 maybe? 40, 00, sure, let's try that. Let's try T3 maybe, or T3.bmp would be nicer. Open T3, I don't think it matters to be fair. Let's try that. Oh, mess up, okay. Let's see what else we could do. I don't think we can throw actual values at, or like there's certain values you have to be like aware of, but I'm trying to remember it. Editor, yeah, okay. Oh, did I even save this? Oh, wait, I didn't even, okay, maybe that's what happened. Let's go back, 2800. I don't know if I used, oh, I think it was 03 though. All right, there's some careful analysis that lets you, I guess, look and change the width and height. It wouldn't really appear on here, the actual numbers, but you could change the byte data, and that would allow you to do that. So I'm not gonna beat around the bush. This should give you the right answer. So open T3. There you go, nice. I have a Pico CTF. There you go, there's your Pico CTF. What is this, tunnel vision, right? So that's how you can do that. All right, let's stop sharing there. Let's go back. So tunnel vision screen, sorry, not tunnel vision, screen 1. Oh, that is not the right screen. Whoops. How's that not? Hang on. Oh, I see what's happening. I didn't even press desktop 1 on this. I'm being a little silly. All right, there we are. Hopefully that works. There we go. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about audio steganography now. Yeah, obviously due to time, we're not going to have time for an example, but the idea is you can hide information in audio, and it's very cool. You don't have to hide just text or any sort of bits and data like that in actual audio. You can hide images in audio. You can probably, I believe you can hide videos in audio. I could be wrong, but I think that's a possibility. Yeah, I mean, you could do some basic surface level things, right? Like doing some reversing the audio to see if there's any sort of clues. Maybe there's some songs that you might know of that have employed that sort of thing where you can reverse the audio and hear a certain message. There's also bit analysis. So kind of like we talked about when LSB for images, I believe you can do something similar for audio. I haven't worked with audio enough to really be an expert on that, but I'm pretty sure that's a possibility. You can look at the spectrogram itself, so you can visualize the data in a different way. And there's tools for that. I don't have like a non-exhaustive list, but those exist for sure. So there's different ways to visualize. So let's talk about some basic tools. I think the common ones you would see probably being used a lot is Audacity and Sonic Visualizer. Audacity is just the basic, you know, you could just use that as an audio sort of tool, just modifying, recording analyzing audio. So that's what it's sort of used for. Sonic Visualizer, I believe, has a little more capabilities to it. Um, yeah, I haven't used Sonic Visualizer enough to really be kind of adamant on how much you can do with it. Let's see. And then you have DAWs, right? I mean, you've probably heard of like FL Studio, Ableton. So those are some options. You could use Reaper as well. Those are some digital audio workstations is the formal term, but just music making softwares. And you can use things like plugins, right? You can modify the audio waveforms using these sorts of DAWs. And it's very powerful because if you cannot, maybe Audacity and Sonic Visualizer might not be enough for what you're doing. So you might use tools like, I don't know, Isotope, which is like an audio, I guess a family of plugins, right? It's a company that just creates audio plugins. I don't think they only do it for DAWs. I think they do it for other stuff. Not very well educated on that sort of thing, but there you go. And there's definitely a lot of other audio libraries and tools. And I guess it's worth mentioning. You might find a lot of these tools I've talked about, image steg analysis and text steg analysis. You will definitely find a lot of these tools on GitHub. I believe I mentioned Binwalk itself is found on GitHub. So a lot of these tools were originally GitHub. So any sort of tools that I didn't even mention here, you could definitely find like a better version, if not like a kind of forked version of it on GitHub. So, you might find that. So let's run through a quick example, and I think that should be wrapping things up. So for those of you who've taken, was it CMPM 17, this might have been a challenge for you. You're pretty much given a audio steganography challenge, and you're told, here's an image, or sorry, find the flag using this WAV file, right? So this is an audio file. And if you go into it, if you put this in Audacity, it's a Taylor Swift song, I believe, right? So, I mean, I personally like Taylor Swift, but okay, I don't actually listen to her. I just said that just to sound cool. Anyways, you could put this up and you could extend the, I guess, length of it. And you can see, well, I don't know, there's some curious areas where a lot of feedback is going on. Maybe not feedback, just some interesting audio bits. And you might be wondering, what the heck is that? I don't think Taylor Swift was screaming in the song, right? So you might be wondering what's going on there. So let's zoom in a bit, right? And it might be different. I mean, it looks like the audio literally stops. I mean, if the audio stops there, I'm sure Taylor Swift's producer would have been fired. But anyways, yeah, so that's very random. You might not find that being like normal in some random audio file. So you can do that more. And you can actually express this data in a different way, right? So you can go into the left side of Audacity and you can find the little drop down. And it's by default, it's waveform. So you could change that to spectrogram. I didn't really do a good job of highlighting it there, but yeah, you could go from that drop down right there on Audacity. And whatever WAV file it may be, you can express it as a spectrogram, right? So let's try that. Let's try expressing that as spectrogram. And boom, there you go. You can find very cool piece of text inside an audio file. I thought that was really cool. I mean, I'm sure there's some tools that allow for this to work out. So, you could definitely look into this. I'm sure you could talk to the creators of this, which is X and, was it Fish, I guess? Yeah. Who made the CMPM with you? Ian. Oh man, I'm sorry. Okay, Ian as well. You could probably ask them and just ask them how they made this. This is a very, I guess, cool piece of, I don't know, tech for steganography. So yeah, I like that a lot. I won't actually cover this last part, but yeah, this is the maybe take-home TTF you could try. This has stuff to do with what is it, audio analysis and things like that. So I didn't have space to put the first hint. So yeah, you could. The first hint asked how did the pictures from the moon landing get sent back to the Earth, and the second hint's right here. What is the CMU mascot? That might help select an option. And I guess if you do enough, and I guess we can talk about like another hint maybe that would help out. The actual answer to that first question would have been slow scan television, which is a technique just used to send images in the form of waveforms, I believe. Yeah. And then, yeah, you could just use that and you can use certain tools that are out there to sort of help with that sort of analysis. So I'll leave you to that challenge. Actually, I could just link that while I'm yapping away. So let's see. Anything else? Let me send that challenge and then we could talk about, I guess, more resources. There isn't really much to say because we're nearing the end. So, oh, hello, this is supposed to be showing stuff. I'm not signed in. It's awesome. I just want to be able to link that moonwalk challenge. Okay, wait. I'm hoping that challenge is the right link. It can be titled moonwalk with O's instead of, yeah, O's. Those zeros instead of O's. So yeah, if you find out, that's good. But I mean, it's recorded, so you'll be able to go back to it. But yeah, there you go. Yeah, so like I mentioned, there's a lot of write-ups and tools on GitHub. You can find a lot of these curious pieces of technology. You can even go as far as to make your own. I mean, I would personally recommend that, but you can be a little, I don't know, code monkey and just go at it. Just try sort of different ways to parse images, parse audio, find your own ways, right? I think that would help a lot. You can also find write-ups on oh my gosh, CTF time, sorry. And you can find like, things that other people have done, get inspiration, see how you can probably tackle the CTF challenges that you've also done. And yeah, here's some more information. There's actually like a steganography toolkit, I believe we have. So you can take a look at that if you want. And there's also, the ZSteg GitHub link itself. So if you want to read more into ZSteg, that's a very powerful tool, like I mentioned. Look into that. And yeah, there you go. That is the end. Thank you so much for attending this. Does anyone have any sort of questions? Anything else maybe I could address? If not, I think we've done a great job today. I mean, we covered everything on time too, 4:30. Love that. Okay. No one else has any questions, we'll probably just stop sharing and end this recording. All right.